a queen was murdered by her own church, partly because of a fork. For centuries, using one wasn't seen as manners. It was seen as blasphemy. For most of human history, humans ate with their hands, knives, and spoons, utensils that had existed for thousands of years across nearly every civilization on Earth. The fork, by contrast, is a surprisingly late invention in Western dining. Archaeological evidence shows small forks existed in ancient Egypt and the Middle East primarily as cooking tools, used to handle hot food during preparation, not as something anyone actually ate with at the table. The personal dining fork as we'd recognize it today first appears in the Byzantine Empire, in what is now Istanbul, sometime around the 4th century. Byzantine elites reportedly used small, two-pronged forks at the table, a genuine novelty at the time. This practice remained almost entirely confined to Byzantine high society, virtually unknown across the rest of Europe for hundreds of years afterward. The fork's journey westward began with tragedy. In 1004, a Byzantine princess named Theodora Dukaina married into Venetian nobility and brought her personal golden fork with her to Italy. Venetian clergy were reportedly horrified, viewing her refusal to eat with her hands, as God supposedly intended, as a sign of dangerous vanity and excess. When she died just a few years later, some religious leaders publicly declared her death divine punishment for the sin of using a fork. This wasn't an isolated overreaction. Throughout medieval Europe, the Catholic Church actively discouraged fork use for centuries, teaching that human hands, created by God, were the only proper way to touch food. Using a metal instrument to lift food to one's mouth was widely viewed as an insult to divine creation, and in some regions, associated with unnecessary vanity or even satanic influence. For nearly 500 years after Theodora's death, forks remained essentially absent from European dining tables, dismissed as both religiously suspect and practically unnecessary. Wealthy households ate confidently with knives and fingers, and this remained a completely normal, socially accepted standard across virtually the entire European continent, from royalty down to peasants. Slowly, forks began reappearing in Italy during the 1300s and 1400s, primarily among wealthy merchant families in cities like Florence and Venice, where dining customs from the Byzantine and Islamic worlds gradually filtered back in through trade. Even then, fork use remained rare and confined almost exclusively to Italy's elite, considered an eccentric regional habit rather than something the rest of Europe took seriously. The rest of Europe remained deeply skeptical for another 2 centuries. When Catherine de' Medici, an Italian noblewoman, married the future King Henry II of France in 1533, she reportedly brought forks with her to the French court. French nobility largely mocked and ridiculed the practice initially, viewing it as an unnecessary, overly delicate Italian affectation unsuited for proper dining. England proved even more resistant. When English traveller Thomas Coriat encountered fork use in Italy in 1608 and brought the practice home, promoting it enthusiastically, he was widely mocked by his peers and given the mocking nickname Furcifer, meaning fork holder, a term originally used as an insult for criminals. For decades afterward, English fork users risked genuine social ridicule for adopting what was still seen as an absurd foreign habit. Fork adoption finally accelerated across European high society throughout the late 1600s and 1700s, driven partly by evolving etiquette standards and increasingly elaborate dining rituals among European aristocracy. By the 1700s, forks had transformed from a suspicious foreign oddity into an essential marker of proper upper-class table manners, a complete reversal from the religious condemnation that had greeted them centuries earlier. From a Byzantine princess blamed for her own death, to English travelers mocked for using one, to a symbol of refined aristocratic manners just a few centuries later, the fork's journey to your dinner table took nearly 1,000 years and survived religious condemnation, royal mockery, and centuries of stubborn resistance. The next time you pick one up without thinking, remember, people once believed this simple tool was an insult to God himself.